Thank you, Babaji. If anyone has questions or reflections for Babaji, you can chat them to me.
Or somebody in the temple. You can't chat, you don't have a computer. Yes, Mary.
So Babaji, I was talking about pranayama to my 10-year-old grandson, and your talk this morning answered his questions yesterday about why the breath is held. You just kind of went, 3, 6, 9, 6, and kind of, so I thank you. I go back with a sense of a little more wisdom and a really beautiful explanation of breath and the life force within it. So I thank you. Leo sent you.
How do you teach the sacredness of the breath to children?
I think you do it.
Yeah, go ahead.
Do it by showing it to them, by the way you soak up everything from birth on. They're going to become a part of you, and so it's the way you live. It's showing. They've watched you sit for years, they've watched these practices, so it's not an unusual thing for them. So I think you teach children by the way you live, and you show them, and then you talk a little bit. You listen to Babaji, and you have something else to say.
Yes, it's see where they are, where the children are, and even reminding that this breath that's you're breathing in is not just the air coming in. There is something very precious in the breath that's being absorbed in your system, and that's keeping you alive. That gets their mind a little bit more thinking. Yeah, so you throw in little hints. What we really need, children, how to remind them of sacredness of everything. And not only to children, the grown-up children too. That everything that we do, every action that we have is sacred. The moment the thought of even something sacred comes to us, our whole attitude changes. Our attitude about ourselves changes. Now, yes, Richard.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, please.
I have a question about the exhalation when you do Prana Sadhana. There's a tendency after you've held the breath, you can just, you just exhale immediately because you've stressed out, as you said. But slowing down the exhalation, if you've held on the inhalation, depends on using that as the example, seemed like a very calming experience. So what is the role of that?
I think that's a second stage to when you want to expand your retention. So first we try to, in the first step, you hold the breath and hold it as long as you can, then slowly release it. But once you begin to work on expanding that, your retention, then you release a little bit. So you release that little tension that's building up. So that's a second stage of working with that. So that's very good. And it is very common. It's again, like you are aware of that tension and then you release it, then the next one appears. It's a beautiful feeling. There is so much that you can experience just by this sadhana. And look at your attitude towards it. It's not a mechanical thing, and it's not a physical thing that you are doing. It's a sacred thing that you are doing. Prana. Prana is the life force itself. We call it Pranamayi Bhagavati, the divine mother in the form of prana. It's the mother, divine mother, that's entering our body and blessing it with new moment.
There's a question, Babaji, in the chat.
Mhm.
During meditation, as we hold the breath, should we continue reciting mantra, moving beads, or stop momentarily?
If you are doing your job and you are using the breath that way, then you continue doing your job. And if you enter in a little bit more blissful state, you can stop. There is no harm. There is no harm in stopping the breath. You can do either way. If you are doing your job and your mind is racing, it's good to hold the breath, but continue your job. And sometimes if you feel like just holding it, and that's either way, both are good.
Why would someone have to do anything but this on a sacred path?
The mind will come, yes, but I got so many other things to do. And we do have social responsibility. We are family people. We got our jobs. We got our obligations. So, but there comes a time sometimes when there is no other option for some, and that's it's good to see everybody virtually and in the temple. It's the first time we are trying this out. How does it look to people out there?
Mhm.
Mindy, it's good to see you. What do you see? You see the temple? You are muted.
I'm asking her to unmute, but yeah, there we go.
Okay,
Oh,
now Babaji. It makes me cry to see everybody.
We feel your presence here.
It's beautiful to see everybody in the temple.
Niraji, how is in India right now?
Maybe it's all good. I went to ashram Varanasi last week, this week actually. So it was, I feel blessed. It was very nice.
I just got a news from Varanasi. The Ganga River is only a foot away from entering the boundary.
It was flowing high at that time also. But yeah, it was under control at that time. And my mother, thank you, Babaji. My mother could really enjoy it and really, she was very happy being at the ashram.
I'm glad you could go, and you're coming here too, I hear.
Yes, I am coming next, just before Navratri. I'll be there.
So you will join us for Navaratri.
Ji, ji.
Chaliye, that'll be wonderful. Shannon, anybody else is on your side?
There is one more question, Babaji.
Hmm?
Let's see. A philosophical question.
Uh-oh.
We know how consciousness thinks when it resides in the body, but do we have any idea how consciousness thinks when it has left the body? Is it different?
It's the same. It's the body attaches to consciousness. Consciousness doesn't attach itself to the body. So consciousness is always pure, always the same. And consciousness doesn't think. Consciousness is just is. What happens when the mind is absolutely still? You are one with that pure consciousness. The moment desire arises, Baba used to say, desire even for a blade of grass creates a ripple in the tranquil pond of consciousness. Even desire for breath. At one time, long time ago, in my early days, I was meditating and I came to this place. I didn't want to take a breath in to disturb the stillness. And I kept going deeper and deeper in that. A part of me was gnawing in the back, you better take a breath now. But I had entered in such a state that I wasn't anxious, so there was no need to take the breath. But something was gnawing in the back that you better take a breath. And there was another struggle, keep going. And this tug between the two was happening. Finally, our body's instinct won. But when you arrive in that state of stillness, really your need even for the next breath becomes very less. And that's how yogis are able to, you may have heard some yogis are able to slow down their heartbeat and all that. I'm not proposing that to you, but it can happen. Even when you are working on retention of your breath, it's the anxiety that really compels you to take the next breath. If you could just relax, your need to take the next breath becomes less. It's the anxiety that forces us.
Can I?
Yes.
Bhavani, I have been following my nostril, not all the time, but whenever I remember. And I find most of the time I'm breathing from the right nostril. And I see some, well, it is like 70 or 80% from the right nostril, but it is obviously not a perfect match because I may not be looking at the time when I breathe. It is from the, but is it normal to have a right nostril predominance?
when the right nostril is dominant, it means you are more active. And that's the time to engage. And so left one is more passive, more calming, more cooling. The right one is more active. Check that in the nighttime when you are really resting and you know that it's time to go to sleep. You may want to look at that. And if the right one is still going on, play with it. Just close the right one and breathe in slowly with the left one, breathe out slowly, and do that 9-10 times. And then check what's happening in your body and what happens to the breath. So it's another way to continue your prana sadhana, that when you are laying down in the bed and check which nostril is more dominant and just play with it. Try to just close that one and breathe in slowly with the other one, breathe out with the same one, and open it up and then see how you feel. Sometimes you are in a mood that you are not very comfortable with. Instead of trying to think, just go to the breath. See what breath is more, which nostril is more dominant. Just change the flow and see what happens to your mood. So these are the things you can experience and explore by yourself. And it's beautiful.
So Babaji, I have done that many times. So I close the right nostril and then I notice after 8-10 breaths, it becomes, I can't check whether it is now, it becomes even sort of. And mood also obviously improves.
When it becomes even, you have entered the Sushumna. Sushumna means then you are in a perfectly calm place. So all these things we can do, just taking a little time and giving it importance. And thank you all. And Shannon, please open up the chat rooms so people can check in with each other, and I will take a leave from you. Thank you all. My blessings and prayers for your continued good health, well-being, happiness. Thank you all.